It's a brand new day. Hey. Wake up every morning and say, it's a brand new day. Hey. Take a good day, make it great, okay? 'Cause if you got some lemons, make some lemonade. Yeah, taste those.
Hey y'all, welcome back to the Garden Diaries. We're so happy that you're spending your time with us. If you haven't already, leave us a comment, like, share, subscribe, give us a thumbs up. We'd love to hear from you, and thanks so much for joining us. Megan, we have a super special guest today. Do you want to introduce her?
Yes, today we have with us Lauren.
Hello, hello.
She is a wonderful person and a fantastic singer.
The voice of an angel.
Yes.
I don't know about that.
Many people in our church would agree. So before we get started and all the fun stuff,
Yes.
we're going to ask you some fun questions.
Okay,
And
I'm
then
ready.
we'll get into the deeper stuff.
Right, perfect.
First, can I just make a shout out to you? You were one of the first people that we met when we came to the Beulah campus. So for all
Really?
of you that don't know, my husband is the campus pastor of our Beulah campus for Marcus Pointe, and Lauren has been the OG. She's been
That's
there ever
true.
since. I've known Lauren before she got married.
Yeah,
I've learned Lauren when she had really curly hair.
I did.
I've learned Lauren. I've known Lauren forever, right?
Yeah.
But like her voice is amazing, and her growth in the Lord and just her calling on being a worship lead. Like God has just used you so much and grown you so much, and I'm just
He has.
want to
Yeah.
say I'm proud of you, and
Thank
I'm
you.
happy to know you.
Oh, I'm happy to know you.
So she's kind of an OG friend. We've known Lauren now for like 6 years.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, it has to be, right?
Yeah. Yeah?
2019. 2019.
Yeah, probably 2019.
Before COVID, yeah. Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Okay, so are you ready for my question?
Oh, so ready.
Well, since you have a voice of an angel and you're about music,
Uh-huh.
if you had to pick one song that was the theme song of your life, what would it be?
Oh, gosh. Okay, the only song that like comes to mind right now, and this is not an accurate depiction, but would be the Dolly Parton song 9 to 5. But that's the only thing I can think of. So I'm going with that.
I like it.
Yeah.
Because work is just the struggle.
Probably. Yeah. For sure, actually.
Lauren works
Yeah.
for kids.
I
For
do.
kids. You work for kids. You
For
work with
kids.
kids.
Yeah.
She's a teacher, and God bless her soul, because the Lord knows that was not my calling. And I'm thankful that you are, because you're going to have my daughter next year.
I am.
So
She reminds me every time she sees me.
it's going to be exciting.
I'm
Potentially
excited.
my son, I think.
Yeah, I
correct?
think
Yeah.
she's going to have both
Yeah.
Kinsley and Ryder.
You're in for a wild ride.
Oh, it's going to be fun, though.
You're
We're gonna
welcome.
have a great time.
Okay, I have another question for you.
Okay.
What are the top 3 items on your bucket list?
Ooh, so I actually do have a bucket list
cool.
of
Sweet.
like 100 things that I want to do. I don't know. I'm trying to think. A lot of them are like smaller things. So like there's a few things that are kind of wild that I've never done before. So up until this past fall, I had never carved a pumpkin.
Why?
I don't know. It's just not something that I had ever done. I've never set off fireworks. So that's another thing I really would
I
like
think
to
your
do.
parents were really afraid that you were going to blow something up
know.
like my husband.
Yeah, possibly. And then, okay, this is kind of embarrassing. I feel like I'm really outing myself right now. But I can't ride a bike. And that's something I feel like I should figure out how to do.
What did you do in your childhood? Just wondering. I mean, I love
felt
your
like
parents.
I did a lot. I felt like I did a lot. But we did like, I don't know. Like my parents traveled a lot. That was their thing.
Okay.
So like I feel like I've been to all these like cool places that people haven't been.
But you
like,
can't ride a bike.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So really it's just kind of like the basics that I need to get done.
We're going to have to like teach you how to do that.
Yeah. No, for sure. No,
One
for
day
sure.
when you have children down the line, like you're going to want to know how to do that, I think. I don't know.
Potentially. Yeah. I feel like it'll be hard to teach them if like, I don't know.
Here you go. Let's hope for the best.
Trust.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to be like, no, I get it. It is scary. It is. So, yeah.
That's funny.
Those those are not things that I would
I was thinking like, you know,
Go to-
parasailing in a different country, but
skydiving.
See, but like I have gone parasailing.
Oh, okay.
Like twice actually.
She's done all the cool things. She just doesn't have
Yeah.
done, like the mundane, monotony
Yeah.
things of the world. Okay. It's like
Yeah.
no carving pumpkins, but you probably like have like jumped off of an Eiffel Tower or something.
I've bungee jumped before.
See?
Yeah. But,
Okay.
But I can't ride a bike, so I'll get there one day.
You're still a cool kid. Like, it was-
Yeah. Yeah, I still love you.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad. Whew.
I'm really
turn.
thrown off right now. This is not the direction of this conversation.
Okay. Well, this next question is I don't know where we're gonna get.
Okay.
So, what was the best day of your life thus far?
Ooh. I feel like you have to say your wedding.
Do you?
I don't know. I feel like that's just like the most common answer.
Okay.
But I don't know if that was like the best day. It was pretty stressful, actually.
I feel like it
I think
is.
most
Yeah.
wedding days are. Yeah.
Yeah, and you have to get up like really early and
And remember all the things.
yeah, and then like I feel like I should say my honeymoon, but then I got food poisoning on my honeymoon. So that wasn't my most favorite day. I'm trying to think. I feel like I've had a lot of like really great days, but it's hard to pick a favorite. Oh gosh, y'all should have given me the questions beforehand.
No.
so I
It
could
wouldn't
answer
be
this.
fun.
That's true. That's true. I feel like I'm throwing out some really strange answers now.
It wasn't like parasailing or bungee jumping.
Those were good days. They were.
Or the
It's
day
hard
you
to,
were born.
That's a good one.
We'll just go with that.
Yeah, no, for sure. We can go that. Ooh, you know what? My 8th birthday party, my parents
When
got.
she didn't learn how to ride a bike.
Yeah, I didn't know that. But they got this like giant blow up obstacle course for our backyard.
Okay.
And I got to play on it with my friends all day long.
That's cool.
Yeah, that was a great day, for sure.
Sorry, Zach.
Well, I didn't know him then, so
But the wedding isn't as good as the obstacle course.
maybe if we had had an obstacle course at the wedding.
Can you imagine like Battle of the Moms? Like your
Oh.
mom and Zach's mom like battling the obstacle course.
Well, now I'm kind of upset we didn't do it. So
So your next anniversary, that's
yeah,
how you can
for sure.
celebrate.
10-year redo.
There it is. Yeah.
Obstacle course. Like the dads
Perfect.
go and then like the moms go and
I
the
think-
siblings.
I think me and Zach have to.
Oh,
Absolutely,
for sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We
Yeah.
have to know who wins.
Oh my goodness. This is it.
Yeah. We
just
figured it
planned
out.
Yeah,
Perfect.
You're welcome.
Great. And that'll be my new favorite day. So good.
Okay, I have
Perfect.
another question for you.
Okay.
What is the best prank you've ever experienced or planned?
Ooh. Okay. When I was in 3rd grade, it was April Fool's Day, and we had already taken our standardized testing. And 3rd grade is like the first year that you actually like take the full test because that's when it counts. And so we were like, we hated it. All of us 3rd graders, we thought it was the worst thing ever. And April Fool's was like a week after that, and our 3rd grade teacher came in and like sat us all down, really serious, and was like, we noticed that there was some cheating going on in the testing. And because of that, we've had to throw out all your scores, and we're going to have to retake the whole thing. So sit down at your desks, like don't say a word, and I'm going to bring the tests in and pass them out. And we all sat down, and I remember being like, you've got to be kidding me. Who cheated? Like, and she left the room and then came back in smiling. And she was like, April Fool's. But
Can
that
we
was
talk about the amount of memories that you remember?
Yeah.
8-year-old's
Yeah.
birthday party, 3rd grade standardized testing. Like I can't even remember what I did last night, and Lauren's over here like reminiscing in her 8-year-old.
they just really stuck with me, you know? Those were like
Made
big
quite the
moments.
impression.
Yeah. Yeah.
Got it.
For sure.
Noted. Okay. Last question that we have for you. I don't know.
Okay.
We should probably just keep going. This is good. This is
We're
good.
finding out a lot about you.
I'm so glad.
Some rich content right here. So I know this answer, I think, but
Okay.
does your car have a name? And if it does, what's your car's name?
It does. My car's name is Marshmallow because it's a white Toyota 4Runner. I almost forgot what car I have for a second. Goodness gracious.
But you don't forget what you did in third grade.
No, never that. But like right after we got the car, me and Zach were like sitting eating dinner, and we were like, we have to name it. And I think it was him who came up with it, and he was like, what about Marshmallow? And I was like, that's the one. That's perfect.
That's it.
Yeah. So he calls it Mellow.
Oh, that's cute.
It's
Yeah.
a mellow car.
like that.
Yeah.
I like that. Megan, does your car have a name?
Pearl.
See, mine doesn't.
Oh, I feel like you should name
should
it.
name
Like
it.
Bessie or something. I don't know.
I don't think your car is a Bessie. It's got too many like bells and whistles.
Ooh.
Oh, I like cows though. So like Bessie, cow.
There you go.
I got a cow sticker on it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, if that's where your heart leads you, then you go for it.
I don't know. Maybe we need to come up with something better.
Yeah, I think so.
Wherever the Lord leads.
Yeah, we'll pray about it.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. If you guys have any recommendations on what to name my car, FYI, it's a Hyundai Palisade. It's black. It's got a cow sticker on it. It's a mom car because I have 3 kids. Put it in the comments. Love to know what you think. Maybe I'll put a picture. We'll see.
Yeah.
Perfect.
All right, so we've gotten through the fun stuff.
Okay.
So now we want to dive deep into just some things that God has taught you over the years. And we've heard your story before, but we'd love for you to share just how God has helped you in friendships. And, sometimes God takes friendships away from us to grow us, to teach us things. So would you mind sharing just some of your personal experiences with that?
Yeah, I feel like friendships is actually a really big part of my testimony. Because I got saved at a very young age. I mean, I grew up with parents that were both like heavily involved in church, and so I was too. So I got saved and baptized when I was like 7 years old.
Do
I
you
don't-
remember that?
I do.
Okay,
I
good.
do. Yeah. But I think this is like a pretty common thing when you get saved so young. I don't feel like I fully understood. I did enough, but not to the point, obviously, that I do now. And so I do feel like, my testimony almost like started then and just like has been continuing on. And then in high school, there was some rough years, as I feel like for most people, it's not your most favorite 4 years. And, I dealt with a loss of friendships then, and I didn't fully really understand like how to deal with that then. And then came like graduating from high school, going into college, which was a really big shift for me, which is surprising because I actually went to college with a lot of people that I graduated high school with. And I think I assumed that our friendships would just stay the same. But I mean, you're moving into like a completely different stage of life, and everybody kind of like fans out because you've got some people involved in this and other people involved in this. I had friends in Greek life and choirs, and I had a couple friends that ended up dropping out or switching schools. And so I found myself in a very lonely place because I hadn't really made any new friends, because in my mind, I was like, well, I've got my friends here, so I don't need to. But then all of my friends made new friends. So I was kind of like odd one out, the one left out. And I ended up, like, I switched schools after my freshman year, and I went to a different school, still in my hometown. But I thought that would fix things. It didn't. And I found myself, like, in a place where I was really lonely, but I didn't know how to get out of it. I felt like I didn't even know how to make friends anymore. And so that was a big push that like had me moving down here, because I'm originally from East Tennessee. And I originally wasn't even going to move to Pensacola. I actually was going to move to Orlando because I have an aunt and uncle who live down there. So I was just going to move in with them and go to school down there, and I thought that would kind of fix things. And my mom's the one who said something and was like, well, why don't you move to Pensacola? Because me and Zach, who's my husband now, were dating at the time. And I think she just felt better about the idea. One, I wouldn't be so far away. And then two, like, I already knew him. I would have had a church home already. I knew some of his friends and their girlfriends. So I ended up doing that. And the first, like, 3 months, it was hard. obviously, because I'm in a brand new city. I didn't have a job yet. So I was in school, and that's all I did. And it was COVID, so you can't make friends in your classes because you have to sit 6 feet apart from them and wear a mask, and then everybody just leaves immediately after. So the first 3 months were hard, but then I got really involved in our college group here at Marcus Pointe. And what really was like the pivotal point for me was our winter trip. And I didn't want to go. I remember telling Zachary after I had signed up, I was like, I just don't think I'm going to do it. I don't think I'm going to go. It's going to be weird. I don't know anybody. I'm going to feel awkward. Like, I can't just cling to you the whole time. And he was like, well, like, I'm going and I really want you to go. And, you know, well, you don't know what'll happen. Just go. So I went, but not with a good attitude. And
I mean, you always have a good attitude. What are you talking about?
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, for sure. Right. Yeah. This was just like a weird moment for me.
Yeah.
That's all.
It's a lapse in judgment.
Yeah.
Okay. Lauren is an angel. Okay.
For sure. Yeah. No. And I ended up going. And like the first day of the trip, immediately had friends, immediately had like people wanting to talk to me. I didn't feel like I was having to like chase after anything, or I didn't feel left out. I got put in a room with some really good girls, and so that was really helpful. And then that trip is where I met one of my best friends now. And so, you know, the whole trip, I remember after the trip, my parents, because we had stopped in Tennessee on the way back. And so my parents kind of like came over and met us for lunch. And I was like showing my parents, I was like, oh, these are like so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so. And this is who I met here. And, oh, this is my new friend that I met here. And my mom was like, oh, wow, like you made a lot of friends. And that was kind of the moment that I was like, okay, things are like looking up. And I think though that it took like that time of me being lonely to even like appreciate what friendship is and what it's about. Because I don't think that I ever did until I realized that like you're not meant to do life alone, and doing life alone is not fun. So I feel like now I have this like appreciation for friendship and what it should be that I didn't have before. And had I not gone through that time where it was sad and it was lonely and I didn't like it and I didn't enjoy it, but had I not had that, I wouldn't have the appreciation and the perspective that I do now.
That's good.
I think sometimes too, God can remove people from your life to remind you that He is a friend. He is, you know, He's your Savior, and He can be, during those lonely times, He can be, you know, the ultimate friend, you know, the ultimate example of a friend.
Yes.
And I think sometimes like we've even talked about in another podcast about how like when you're putting things before the Lord, He can remove those things and make sure that He's priority. And sometimes that means losing friendships.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
And it's hard, especially when you look at, you know, I think back in high school and I'm like, I'm going to be best friends with the people for the rest of my life. And I don't talk to most of them. But it's just, I mean, life takes us on different paths. And it was sad and lonely, but like, I think sometimes like that's a big thing is where God removes people, and sometimes those friendships to remind you like He's still there.
Yeah.
I also think He puts people in your life for seasons. And I think that sometimes that's really hard for me. I joke with my best friend, and I always tell her, like, I'm the golden retriever. Like, no matter what you do, I'm always going to come back wanting more, because that's just the type of personality I have. I'm a people pleaser, and I want to be your friend, and I want you to love me. And that's not really a great quality to have, but that is me. And but I think what's hard for me sometimes is you get in these relationships with people, and you have friends, and you share some of your most intimate secrets and ideas, and God plucks those people out of your life in an instant. And I really struggled with that. I mean, especially as you get into your adulthood, I think any season you're in, you're thinking like, oh, this is so terrible. But I think like as you get into adulthood, your friendships develop into something so different. And I think when you throw kids in the mix, it's a totally different dynamic when you have a friend. And God has recently, plucked some people out of my life that I thought were going to be my ride or die people. And I've really struggled with the why. And sometimes I know God's not going to tell me the why. But to your point, Megan, I think you made a really great point that sometimes he needs to remove those people because they're taking my focus away from him. And he knows that they're not people that are leading me to the Lord. They're leading me away from my relationship with God. Could you give us an example of maybe a time where like that happened in your life and how you dealt with it, or some advice that you would give to somebody that's listening that maybe is walking through that season of life where it almost feels like the world's ending because the friendship's ending and you're grieving? I feel like you really are grieving when you lose a friend. Can you share a little bit?
Yeah. I know that there's, like not even too long ago, been times where because of like circumstances, I was losing a friend. So it wasn't even like by choice, but it was just what was happening. And I remember not too long ago, there was a period of time where I was really struggling with feeling like a lot of negative emotions, and I couldn't figure out where it was stemming from. And I even got to the point where I was like, do I need to go like see someone and speak to them about this? Because like, I don't even understand what's going on and why this is becoming such a big problem in my life. And I didn't realize until that friendship not so much ended, but because of circumstances, we weren't really in a position where we could like be friends the way we were before. I didn't realize until there was that separation that a lot of those negative emotions were coming from that friendship. And I didn't even realize how much like their negativity was bringing me down and making me feel so like upset and angry at the world and at other circumstances and situations that I didn't really feel that way about, but it was like that was influencing me so much and I had no idea. And at the time, I didn't want the friendship to end because I was like, well, what am I going to do? They're leaving and, am I going to have to, there's always that fear of like, am I not going to have friends? Like, am I going to have to start over? Am I going to be lonely again? And I didn't even realize that it was almost like a blessing from God that there was separation in that, because I was really struggling and a lot of that was coming from that friendship. And I think it's really cool that like, obviously like God knew what the situation was, even when I couldn't see it. And, when I couldn't figure it out and couldn't do that separation myself, he intervened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of times he has to. Because I won't let go.
Yeah.
I'll keep being their friend all day long. That's just the type of person I was. And if he doesn't cut that off, then I'm going to still be there wagging my tail asking for them to pet me, like figuratively, golden retriever. My friends don't pet me. Just want to throw that out there. But what I'm saying is like, I feel like I am that person. Like if God doesn't remove them from my life in that capacity, and sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it's heartbreaking, but he has to do it that way for me to point back to him.
Well, because it's hurting you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whether you realize it or not. I mean, sometimes it's easy to realize that it's hurting you and it's still hard to let go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think it's really cool that like God will step in on your behalf when like you can't.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's good.
That's good.
As you've been maneuvering through these different things, is there any like scripture or Bible verses that has helped you, whether it's losing a friend or having to move on from a friend or whatever the case may be, that like God has used to comfort your heart?
I'm trying to think of any specific scripture. I know that just in general, I notice a huge difference in myself when I am like in his word regularly and consistently than when I'm not. And I used to make fun of people who said that because I was like, what is it even really doing? I was like, it's almost just a placebo effect.
Yeah.
But it's not. And I've realized that when I'm like consistently and regularly in scripture and like actually in it for the right reasons and not just to check a box off, and not just, well, let me read it really fast so I can get on with the rest of my day.
Yeah.
I noticed that like I'm a happier person and I have more peace in situations where, maybe it wouldn't make sense for me to. So I can't think of like a specific verse or anything like that, but I absolutely would say that like scripture just in general is like something that makes such a difference in my life.
Yeah.
Especially when I'm going through those hard times.
Yeah. To go off what you said, I think a lot of times we like question like, why does God feel so far away? Like, why does like my relationship with him really seem to be struggling? And we get that also with with our friends, like so-and-so hasn't talked to me in like 5 days. Like our friendship is over. Like, like my best friend doesn't love me anymore. Like you start thinking about things because there's no communication. There's no nurturing of that relationship. No talking, and I think that's the same thing with the Lord. I know me personally, whenever I really feel distant from the Lord, it's because I haven't been talking to him.
Yeah.
I haven't been in his word.
Yeah.
I haven't been praying. I've switched from worship to something else. And it's like, I'm not feeding that relationship and I'm not communicating with him. And so of course he feels distance because I've distanced myself from him. And I think that's, evident in friendships as well. And our relationship with the Lord, any relationship really, you're going to feel like you're distant because you're not nurturing that relationship.
That's good.
I feel like that's such a testament to how important communication is in every relationship.
Yeah.
And actually a friend and I were talking about this the other day, and she was like, I started to treat my friendships in like the same way and the same perspective that I would look at a romantic relationship of like, if I'm not communicating my feelings and like, maybe they did something that made me upset and I'm just trying to brush it off and not actually talk about it, that's not going to get resolved and it's going to create a bigger issue in the long run. Because I've seen that happen.
Yeah.
And like she has as well. And she was like, and it also can, put in perspective, like, one, how is that person treating me in the friendship and how am I treating them? And is that, something that we should be cultivating?
Yeah.
Because I think in friendships, a lot of times you'll think that like, well, she's just my friend. So even though she's making all these horrible decisions and like she's really treating me poorly, it's fine. Like I can get over it. We're friends. I'll deal with it. But I mean, that's true to an extent of like, you want to be there for people even when they're going through a hard time and maybe they're just making poor decisions. But you can't just continually let somebody hurt you.
Right.
And expect that to not cause, resentment or other problems in the future.
You said that communication is important. I think also honest communication.
Yes.
And getting down and like, what is a friend if they're not going to be honest with you and tell you like, hey, you're going down a bad path. Like, I don't want you. Like, okay, if like somebody's driving a car and they're headed towards a cliff, you're going to want to tell them, hey, there's a cliff. You're not going to want them to go over.
Right.
And so like being like that honest, like, and then even with hurts, because like I feel like sometimes you were saying like it can just get swept under the rug and then that can just fester and fester and fester. And then you've really and being able to have that open line of communication with your friends and saying, hey, like you hurt me. I love you.
Right.
But this hurt me.
Yeah.
And what can we do to fix this rather than just sweeping it under the rug?
I was going to say, y'all have said some really great points that kind of just made me get in my feels a little bit. I think as becoming a Christian later in life and seeing my friendships so differently through a Christian lens. I'm not saying all my friends are Christians because we're not called to have all of our friends as Christians. Jesus also had friends that were lost, and we're called to have friends that are lost. However, the friends that I go to for advice are my biblical friends because they're going to give me biblical advice. If I go to my worldly friends and ask them, hey, this, or that, they're not going to give me advice from the word. They're going to give me advice the world wants me to hear. But one thing that I've learned in friendships with my Christian friends are those communication lines are hard for me sometimes because they speak the truth in love like we're called to in the Bible. And sometimes that hurts me. But it's a good hurt though. Like, and I'll give you an example, and I'm going to give you your example. Megan is a person that I go to a lot that we talk through, and you're one of my Christian godly people I go to for advice. But you call me out in love in the sense of like, you're doing this. I see that you're doing this. Let me come alongside you. Let me pray for you. And I'm here. And I think that's such a big difference from a worldly friend. I think, you know, a lot of my friends would be like, why are you whining? Why you know, it's not the end of the world, or you do you, boo-boo. How many times have you gotten that advice from somebody, you know, like, but I think it's super important as a Christian, and I'm speaking specifically to Christians right now, that when you're in a friendship with another Christian, that your heart posture is always to the Lord, and you're always coming out of a place of love. And I think that that's very different than having a worldly friendship. And I think that we have to be careful when we're comparing friendships, because we're expecting sometimes Christian advice and Christian values in our worldly friendships that we're holding them to a standard that we shouldn't be holding them to.
Yeah.
Right.
So where are you getting your advice from your friend? Are you getting the advice that you need from your Christian friends, and you're pouring into your non-Christian friends? Or are you looking for advice from your non-Christian friends on what you're supposed to be doing, what the Lord wants you to do?
I had a youth pastor one time say this, where he said, you know, a lot of times Christians get a bad rap for being like judgmental.
Right.
In fact, a lot. And he said that, you know, one time he had a kid say to them, he was like, well, when I'm hanging out with my friends that are not church friends, you know, and I show up at a party with them, you know, they'll say, we're just so glad you're here. He was like, and that's, you know, what I want to hear, because I feel like when I'm coming to church, they want me to change all these things about my life. And he was like, I just want to hear that they're glad that I'm here. And the one thing that my youth pastor said was like, but they're only glad that you're there. He was like, they don't care about you. They don't care about your soul. They don't care about, you know, are you making smart decisions and choices in your life? Or are you making choices that are going to hurt you in the future? He was like, they're only glad that you're there and you're present. He was like, but when you're coming to church, you know, it may feel like they're being judgmental, but I would imagine that a lot of the time that's not what they're trying to communicate. But it's more that like, we're so glad that you're here, but we care a lot more about, you know, your future and things that you're doing now and what's that creating for your future.
Yeah. That's good.
That's really good. Do you have any more questions for her? Or?
I'm going to let you do our segment so I don't forget this time.
You got it. So we have been starting this thing where we're closing out just to kind of like wrap up the episode. But before we do that, I do want to just appreciate your, like, you talking and being vulnerable about friendship, because I think it's hard for women because we crave that that those relationships.
Right.
Because, you know, obviously, like, I love my relationship with my husband, and he's my best friend, but girls just can relate to one another, like, you know, on a more emotional
It's
level.
different.
And
Can I be honest for something? Can I just say something? Can we stop comparing each other? Can we stop talking about each other? And can we start praying for each other and lifting each other up? Like, imagine having friendships where it was constantly like cheering that person on because they're winning, not talking behind their back because they've got this or that. Like, I just wish that we would. My prayer is, you know, for all of our listeners and just for us around the table, that we continue to foster relationships and women that pray for one another, that come alongside each other, that cheer when we win. Like, success and cheering for your friend should be something normal.
What's the quote? We rise by lifting others. Like, I think it's, sometimes we do get stuck in that, like, wow, she's getting like all this attention. Like, I want to be like her. And it's like, but we are supposed to love others like Jesus loves. And he loves us despite all of our mess ups. And he continues to outpour our love. And it's like, we need to be willing to extend that same grace in our friendships. And sometimes we do have to let friendships go. And and God, like, it's okay, because if that relationship is hindering my relationship with Jesus, it's got to go. I still love that person, and I will always love that person, but you do have to, you know, set boundaries, and boundaries that's not a bad word.
It's biblical.
And so I just wanted to throw that out there. Like,
No, and I echo that, and I think if we as Christians set a better example of what true friendship is, and we emulate what his friendships with the disciples.
Yeah.
I mean, think about his disciples betrayed him, but he still loved. Like, I think if we set our goal for our friendships to be more like Jesus, imagine the fruit that would come from those relationships, and the cultivating conversations and the uplifting, and not the body shaming or the gossip or the coming behind your back. Because I'm gonna call myself out right now. Like, I think every woman can raise their hand that we've gossiped, we've talked bad about someone behind their backs, and imagine if we took that and replaced that with praying for that person. What we could do as women. I think women are the worst. I think guys, they get over things so easy. It's like they can get in an argument and then later they're like, hey bro, what you want to eat? Like,
and I'm like 4 years ago, this girl said this one thing, and I'm still mad about it.
Right. But I mean, I could probably name 5 that I'm probably still harboring. Not probably, I am. Like, but if we release that and, imagine not only that, but imagine like what type of people we would attract in the lost, and like being the light of the world, and that non-believers would see that and say, I want to be like that. I want to be like Jesus. I want to have what that friendship is,
Yeah. Our life would be so much more fulfilling.
Yeah.
If we just let the petty things go and allow Jesus to be mirrored in how we treat our friends and love our friends and love people.
Yeah.
So anyways,
sorry,
we were gonna, close out, but I was gonna go but I think that was good. I think what was said was good. I think it was important because friendship is such a beautiful thing. But it also can be a very hard thing.
Yeah.
There's lots of layers to friendship.
Yeah. Okay. So back to what
Reel it back in.
To close out the episode, we have been starting something that's called the moment at the well.
Okay.
And so just wanted you to share maybe something. I know you've said like something pivotal in your life earlier, but a different pivotal moment in your life that God just made himself very evident to you, and if you want to just share
Met
that.
you where you were at.
Yeah. There's like a few that I could pick from. I'm trying to think of what I want to say. I think, honestly, like a pretty good one would probably be recently. 'Cause like I know, like there's been issues.
Sorry.
We have our kids again, y'all. In our
That
last
was definitely
episode,
my daughter.
We just heard Addie scream. It's fine. Everything's fine.
She's good. She's good.
But like I know that there's been issues where like I've been trying really hard not to get into this habit of like switching friends. Because I felt like for a while, not on purpose, it wasn't anything like that, but I would have like friends that would move, or friends that would, they have different jobs, and so then we can't see each other as much anymore. And it felt a little bit like that was happening again, but it was with friends that I was like, I don't want to lose these people. Like, there's no issues here. Like, I don't want to lose this friendship. I really enjoy this friendship. And I think what I realized, though, was like, if it's going to go, it's going to go. And not that I'm not going to, work at it and cultivate it. But like, ultimately it's in God's hands. It's not in mine. And it's not in my control to keep a friendship by only my strength. And I can do what I can do, but like, there's a line to that. And then it's done. But I got a lot of peace about that situation. I feel like, something funny, like me and my friends have talked about, is like if you pray for peace and if you pray for joy, like 99% of the time you get it.
Yeah.
It may not be in like the situation you thought it was going to be in, but I've found that just about in every time in my life that I have asked for peace for a certain situation, it's been granted. And I feel like once you have that peace about it, like it's not scary anymore, and it's not something you need to be like stressing about or fearful of, because like you can do what you can do, but then ultimately it's in God's hands.
That's good.
It's very good.
I mean, it goes back to like, we keep going back to Proverbs.
Yeah.
Trust in the Lord with all your heart, with all things, all your heart, all things. Not just the little things, but everything. Friendships, marriages.
Yeah.
You know, anything, finances. And he takes control and he has it and you give it to him and you obey. Obedience brings blessings. That's what my daughter was taught, and she says that all the time. And Mike and I talk about that a lot. Like, she used to say over and over again, her teacher, Miss Hennessy, said, shout out to Miss Hennessy, we love you, we miss you. Obedience brings blessings. And it's true. Like, obedience brings your blessings. And if you're obedient to God and you give it to God, and you trust with him with all your heart, he continues to work in your life.
Yeah.
It's good.
Very, very good.
Well, Lauren, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah.
You're
it's
amazing.
been fun.
Thank you for, I will say, we had a little snafu. We did record Lauren once before. Shout out to my amazing husband. We didn't shout him out last time. We have to shout him out every podcast. Woo-woo. But he is the behind the scenes, we'll say the Wizard of Oz behind the cloth. He does all the things. He does all the tech. He does the editing.
You're supposed to
he
lean
does,
back and get into the shot.
I know, right?
Well, that's his new name now.
The Wizard of Oz?
Yeah, for sure.
But he does it all. So he literally, he helps produce it. He sits here. He changes the camera when we talk. Like, literally, he's the hands and feet of the podcast behind the scenes, and we really appreciate you. However, he may have lost Lauren's first recording, so this is take 2 of Lauren.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think it was better.
Probably.
I mean,
God
the
just
Lord
wanted, he was like, nah, this is not the right one.
Yeah.
We're going to redo it.
That was
Right.
practice.
The Lord pruned it
so true.
from us and said, Lauren, you got to come again. We got to do it again. So thank you for being willing just to
Absolutely.
come on, and we appreciate you and your beautiful voice. Do you want to leave us like with a little song? Like, you want to sing a little song?
You know, I so would. but maybe we should just tell them that if they want to hear it, they have to come to Marcus Pointe
Yeah,
Beulah.
there you go.
So
I like the way you think. We meet at the Beulah Middle School if you're local here in Pensacola at 10 a.m. on Sundays. So when you're listening, he's giving me the wrap it up sign. So 10 a.m. On Sundays. Now you got me all. The Wizard of Oz is making some
The
faces.
great and powerful Oz has said, end it.
End the podcast. All right. Well, on that note, we're going to end the podcast. All right, Megan.
All right. See ya.
Take a good